Hello, and thank you so very much for your willingness to help us out with the airfare student field trip. This PowerPoint is going to serve as an orientation and overview to help you better understand what we are going to be trying to do together this coming Friday, February 7th, 2020, as we welcome a little over 900 students. So before we begin, we want to thank you that this program is in partnership with the great city of Buckeye, as well as Copper State Fly-In, and we can't thank you guys enough to help us do this. And the reason why we thank you is, as a brief overview, just so you can see, thanks to you, we are going to be able to welcome a little over 900 5th and 6th grade students coming in from 3 different school districts, from 10 different schools and 29 classrooms. All these kids are going to be going beyond the classroom to enjoy an awesome learning experience as they engage with several different STEAM and aviation educational booths. We have a little over 30 people who are going to be out there to help us schedule and get kids to go through 6 to 8 of them during the 3-hour period. And Copper State, and my right-hand man from Copper State, Rodney Tang, has arranged for a little over 20 plus pilots to be willing to give mini lessons to the kids as well that day. But of course, none of this is possible without our 30 plus volunteers, including you, who will help us make this happen. So the goals for the field trip, just want to briefly go over this. We want to get these kids beyond the classroom. They've been learning on a lot of different things that are STEAM, especially STEAM-based. We want to get them outside the classroom, go beyond it in a really cool, non-traditional outdoor classroom. And as they come out there, we want them to experience the areas of STEAM and aviation. And STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, art, and math. However, with the airfare, we love to say that the A also stands for aviation, and even astronomy, and any other wonderful A science words that are out there. On top of experiencing STEAM and aviation lessons through mini lessons, they're also going to be able to do career exploration. All of our booths have been informed of this, where they get to share about their career paths to hopefully open up the possibilities for the kids who are visiting. Another goal is to make sure that they get hands-on and engaging experiences. This is not just come, stand, listen. This is come, observe, see, do, touch, feel, a lot of cool stuff. And of course, we do want to make people aware of the Buckeye Airfare, but equally important, the Buckeye Airport. There's great potential for a future with Buckeye with the airport, and it's important that our community gets to see it firsthand, including our youth who are going to be growing up here. Some great special things are happening, and we want to make sure they can experience that. So basic overview of the schedule for the day. As a volunteer, we do ask anybody who's going to show up for setup, please arrive by 7 a.m. And we'll be doing setup from 7 to 8:30. That includes making sure that we get everybody checked in, get vests issued. If you're going to be a guide, we ask that, or other volunteers who are not able to help set up, please arrive between 7:30 and 8 a.m. So that right at 8 a.m. we can do our safety brief that Rodney Tang will do and give us a brief safety overview, reminder, and also any updates that we need to know being on an active airfield. But during that time, we will also go a little bit over the overview for the morning as well. 8:20 and 8:30, we'll go ahead and get you out to your stations, answer any other questions that may be there. And then, of course, then at 8:30, begin to welcome buses between 8:30 and 9. We do have a schedule starting from 9 going to 12. That said, we know not all buses are going to arrive on time. We already have a couple who have informed us won't be there till 9:15 or 10. When you hear us talk about the schedule later, just know that if the bus arrives at 10, you look at your schedule, look where they're supposed to be at 10 a.m. and have them go there, just like a regular school day. We'll rotate the kids through the stations. There'll be 6 to 8 that will rotate through between 9 a.m. to 12. And that schedule will be provided to the tour guides to keep them on schedule. 12 to 12:10, head on over to the main stage. So at 12:10 to 12:30, closing remarks can be given by City of Buckeye, including Councilman Orsborn and Mayor Meck, as well as Copper State representation. And one of the cool things we're going to be doing there is our epic aviation selfie. So we welcome our volunteers to be part of that if you're interested. Of course, at 12, if not, you're welcome to just close up and sign out and head home. But if you are a tour guide, we do ask that you stick around. You'll be there for that selfie. 12:30 to 1. The students need to be directed to where they'll have lunch. So we ask that you get the kids to that location, which we will give to you the morning of, and make sure they have the chance to get there and ask any questions that they need. Once they're at lunch, though, they are on their own. At that point, you're able to thank them for coming, and then you can head on home and sign out, and again, leave with our greatest appreciation and gratitude for helping. So that's the basic overview for the day. So starting with safety. Your safety is first and foremost very paramount because we are on an active airfield. This means we do have planes coming and going, propellers moving. So just be very observant and aware of your surroundings. I encourage you to wear sun protection for Friday, hat, suntan lotion, dress warm. At the same time, dress warm. We hear it's going to be a little bit 68 or so. Wear comfortable shoes. There is a lot of rocking, especially if you're going to be a guide. It is a big airport, so make sure you are dressed correctly for that. You're welcome to bring water. If you have your own canteen, that's fine. We are going to provide plenty of water, of course, bottled water if you need any at the info table, as well as I do have some snacks, like snacks, crackers, breakfast bars, granola bars, stuff like that if you need anything. But I know some people like to bring their own water bottles, and that's fine. You will have vests to identify you as volunteers, tour guides, so it's easy for the kids to find you if they do get lost. So it's a good visual. You'll get those signed out at the welcome booth when you check in the morning. Of course, at any point in time, if you feel there's a danger with the tour or at the booth that you're working, you have the ability to stop and identify the situation, bring it to our attention if you need to. But your safety is first and foremost, which then leads to the kids and teacher safety. We do ask our volunteers to bring their cell phones and leave their number at sign-in. The reason we're going to be asking for that number, if anything should happen, we're able to contact you. At the same time, make sure that you can contact me that morning. If you do have questions, concerns, you can get a hold of me, 623-680-6528. This does include if a child gets lost or a child joins your group that's not part of your group that we need to get them reconnected. We definitely want to have a means of communication. Student and teacher safety expectation, very similar. Before the tour guides do take their kids out, we do ask that these are reviewed. Make sure to remind them active airfield. Again, that the planes are going to be moving. Do also watch to see if there is a pilot sitting in the cockpit. That means there's a chance that it could be coming or going. Either way, there could be moving pieces, so be very aware. We'll let the students know not to touch the aircraft unless directed to do so. A lot of these aircrafts are very expensive and expensive parts that can break easily, but definitely look and enjoy seeing and asking and talking to the pilots who will be near them. Remind the students to stay with their class at all times, and again, if they do get separated, find a group with the vest and or return to the info booth. If they're nearby that, we will get them connected with their class. And another location could be the first aid station. That is located at the hangar off the main road entrance that you came through. But they'll also remind them looking for the vests if lost. Cell phones, students should not be having them. Most likely they won't. Some may. Just remind them if they do, keep them in the pockets so that they're observing their surroundings and, of course, giving respect to our vendors. Some of them may be told to take the cell phone out, take photos, that's fine, but make sure they get put back. Let the teachers know photographs may be taken in the beginning and ask them if there are any students who cannot be photographed. If so, if a Copper State or City of Buckeye photographer comes by, you can just let them know, unfortunately, that group cannot be photographed. That way we do our best to respect that. Restrooms, we recommend restroom breaks be taken when they're in the pilot area because there's extra built-in time for that, plus they'll be walking past the restrooms on their way to the pilots. It is not the guide's job or the booth or the volunteers' jobs to take kids to the restrooms. That is the teacher and chaperone. It is recommended that somebody does escort them over to make sure that they can get back with their group safely. You as a tour guide, if that is your job, you can tell them where to meet, where to anticipate to meet, or where the next rotation is. It is our job to keep the airport clean. And when I say our job, that's everybody. That's the students, teachers, volunteers, all of us. But definitely, as Rodney said, police the trash. So remind the kids, throw things away if they don't need them, want them. If they make the paper airplanes or other things, so a teacher will have a bag they can put it in to take home so they're not accidentally dropping it. Remind the students they are more than welcome to ask questions. They're encouraged to ask questions. This is their classroom in a fun way. They're going to have some great connections with people that day. And remind the students also be on lookout out for potential careers. And you can be asking them that question as you go along. And like any other good time, so important that we say please and thank you. A lot of our vendors and pilots and a lot of other people have taken some extra time off of their work or added extra work onto their schedule, yourselves included. It's very important that we do thank the vendors and pilots, and of course, that should say thank the volunteers. So we'll be doing that reminder to them, but you as the guides and booth people, please, we want to make sure you do that. Okay, volunteer jobs, just overview. These are the different jobs we have, including setup, welcome, flight simulator through Copper State, Morse code, paper airplane booth, runners and helpers, as well as our tour guides, which is the primary one that we have. 29 classes means 29 guides. So that's what we need there. And setup and takedown. With setup takedown, anybody and everybody who's able, we absolutely welcome your help. If you can't, we respect that. If you can, we thank you very much. Quick overview setup. If you're doing that, please arrive about 7 a.m. if you can. We're going to be setting up information booth, Morse code booth, paper airplane. We need to move some tables and chairs to accommodate as vendors arrive. And we'll need some volunteers to help us direct vendors to their locations upon arrival, help them get to where they're going. Welcome info booth. This is where we're going to have everybody check in and out. That includes our volunteers as well as our schools and students. For volunteers, you do need to sign in. This is also where you'll sign out. This is where you'll get your vests, and it will be where you return your vests. Our welcome booth will help us welcome those teachers' students. Once we get them there, we will then turn them over to the guide that has already been pre-assigned, or will be assigned with the packet. Basically, we're going to give them to the guide. The guide will have the group that they'll go with. They'll answer basic questions, and we'll also help make sure that people know where the lunch locations are for the different groups, A, B, C, D, and E. Other than that, we also are going to make sure that we're there to thank our classes for coming and make sure they get on the buses safely and on their way. Copper State Flight Simulator, you're going to be working with the wonderful, amazing Alex Bodak, who's going to have, I think it's 8 or 9 flight simulators. Super fun, super awesome. He will need help setting up, make sure that we get them all set and going and get them all plugged into the generator and they're ready to go. So if you're helping with that, that'll be good. We'll also have it where, this is one of those, you'll hear us talk a little bit later, some of our booths, we've done it where we've paired them so that we can split up the classes. So 30 kids will come over, and 15 will be with Alex for about 15 minutes as they do flight simulators, while another 15 will be with AOPA, the Arizona Pilot Association. And then they'll switch. So Alex will need that extra help to have helping kids get on and off the flight simulators and then switching classes. Morse code, another super fun booth that we have set. We'll have two code stations, Morse code 1, Morse code 2. And those, I should have been doing this earlier. We just came from Copper State here where Alex is, and we're coming over here to the Morse code area. We'll have 2 different classes, one on each side. They're up to 30 kids each. They'll learn a little bit about Morse code, and then they'll actually practice Morse code. And so they'll have a chance to do that at the Morse code station with some different volunteers. If you're an extra volunteer there, you're going to help us not only teach the kids how to do it with the papers that's taped to the table with the code alphabet, you'll help them switch between kids to make sure every child gets a chance. There'll be 9 stations on both sides. Paper airplanes, similar to Morse code. We will have a station there, and we'll have a gentleman who talks about paper airplane making, a little bit about aerodynamics and what goes into an airplane. And then we're going to have some extra volunteers, up to 5 possibly, which means then a class of 30 can be broken down to 6 each at each table, where that volunteer can help them make the paper airplane. They'll have a test zone where they can fly it, see how far it goes, and then they can come back if time permits, redo their plane to try to make it better using some of the ideas that the people running the booth have for them. So this is a great chance to practice a little of that engineering and aviation at this one and talked to some great people, including some volunteers from the RC Flyers, the Remote Control Flyers, who will be helping them. And that's going to be right over there too, near the info booth. Runners, again, there to help us as needed. Contingency plan, you'll hear us talk later if we don't have enough volunteers for the guides. We'll keep the guides primarily rotating through these beyond the classroom locations, and the runners will then help us get kids from one end to the other to the pilots, where the teachers and chaperones can go visit different pilots. But the runners, if we have extra volunteers, that's our, if we need to do it, we'll use runners for that as well. Okay, guides. These are the core part of everything, because you're going to help us be moving 900 kids for 3 hours. So guides, the gist of it, you're going to welcome the class. You're going to review the rules and safety, which are on a card that we provide. You'll then guide the students through 6 to 8 stations. You'll be given that schedule on an activity packet that you receive. You'll keep the classes on schedule as best as possible and engage them. Especially if you finish early, we'll have an engagement card that you can use to get them to reflect on what they saw and really focus on STEAM and careers as well. We do ask the guides to get the kids to the stage by 12:10 for closing remarks, and then at 12:30, direct them to where their lunch location is at. At that point, you're done. You can thank them for coming, and then you can either come help us clean up or head home with our greatest appreciation after you check out. Takedown, we're going to be helping the vendors pack up, as well as taking down the booths that we've set up, the Morse code, paper airplane, and info booths. We're going to have some chairs and tables that we have to move, including from the ladder booths, paper airplane, Morse code, so that they're set and ready to go for the next day for SciTech, which is going to have a little over 63 booths. And then if on your way back from the stage, if you're coming from that direction, if you see any paper airplanes or activity guides on the ground, we do appreciate you helping us get those picked up, thrown away, so we keep a nice clean airport. That activity packet that I've been talking about, let's take a look at it. So in a way to make sure that we're engaging our kids and teachers and make sure that this is just not a come and go type of situation, we wanted to design it where they had a pre-study or a study guide with pre-activities, vocabulary, things to think about, as well as an activity guide to give them a chance to reflect on what they've learned. And so a lot of that's in there, but also we have information on the Morse code. If they couldn't go to that booth, they'll still have the activity where the teacher can run in the classroom very easily. RC Flyers, if they didn't get to go to that because it's not part of the rotation, there'll still be the information about the RC Flyers open house. So the activity packet's going to have a lot of different things, and we're just going to review those very quickly here. Safety card, we mentioned, this is the first thing you do before they go fully out on their rotation. Once the tour guide gets it, we're going to ask that they step a little bit away from the booth so it doesn't get too loud. They can even head in the direction of their first rotation, but go over the safety reminders and the expectations. Question card or engagement card. Again, this is a way to engage the kids, ways to get them thinking and reflecting. These are just some techniques, including one that's not on here, but it came up at orientation. Set the expectations. When you arrive to a booth, set the expectation that, okay, you're coming to Morse code. We expect that you're going to learn about a new type of communication that you haven't done before or tried. And even if you don't know what that booth is, let's say you go to Verado Astronomy Club. Not fully sure what the club is, but there's telescopes. Expectation is they are going to be learning about telescopes, so you can keep it general, but get them thinking before they get there. Once they leave, some really cool techniques in the schools that they use. One is called Think, Pair, Share. When you leave a booth, if you have some extra time, or at the end, when you're waiting at the stage, think about what you saw, pair with somebody, and tell them what your top 3 favorite things were, and then share them with a partner. And then share it out loud. You can then even ask the kids, what did you say? Or what did you hear? Some other fun ones are look around. Look around and tell me, what do you see that is the coolest thing? Or think about what you just saw. How would you improve that? So some higher level thinking that gets them thinking. Huddle is just where you get kids 4 or 5 together and say you have 30 seconds, huddle, and tell me the top 5, give me one STEAM or one booth for STEAM for each one. Give me a science booth, a technology booth, engineering, aviation, and math booth. Go. So it's a cool huddle, 30 seconds, keeps them speeding and having fun. And A to Z, super fun. It's kind of like an I Spy, but A to Z. So I Spy is something that starts with H. Oh, it's the National Guard Humvee. So that's the A to Z technique. But this is a way to engage. Those will be in the activity packet for you. Study guide, this already went out to the teachers. I was talking about it earlier. As you can see, we have different stuff, including the rules and expectations. We'll actually have 2 copies of this. So the teacher, if they don't have it or didn't get it, you can give them one, as well as to the chaperone. Sometimes we get a chaperone or somebody else who wants a copy. There's 2 there for them, and we can always email again if needed. The websites are really good for additional learning, especially with careers in aviation and STEAM and learning more. We have stuff there that a lot of these planes are going to see, so there's some names on there that might help them with that as well. We've got a cool timeline, but also importantly, the one where don't just show and go. When they leave, please remind the teacher, especially if you're a tour guide or running a booth, there's post-field trip activities. Have them check them out and see which ones they want to do to keep the kids and getting them reflecting and solidifying what they learned. Final page here, these are all our different booths that are going to be there, the vendors, minus our 20 plus pilots, but they are with Copper State. So they can learn more about those vendors and look up information on them, especially if they didn't get to go to the site. Anyone with a red asterisk, those ones will actually be back at SciTech the next day. So if they're able to come and they didn't get to go to one, they can go the next day between 8 to 5 because they're going to be there majority of the day. Some of them might even be there on Sunday. I know a couple have stated, but if nothing else, SciTech for sure. If you're a tour guide, you should know your group ahead of time. You should know if you're A1 or Group B or Group D. And we know what's in those groups. You can actually see which 6 to 8 booths you're going to and visit those websites ahead of time if you want to. Okay, the activity guide. We actually have one of these for every student. As you can see, we have a fun little cover with a reminder. If they do come back on Saturday, they can bring this activity guide to the SciTech booth for an extra raffle ticket for a chance to win one of several awesome prizes. So make sure if you're a tour guide or welcome booth or volunteer at a booth, remind the kids that. And then for them to learn about what's happening at the airfair, that's where they're going to find this information back here for Saturday and Sunday in case they want additional info on that or share that with their parents to bring them out. Again, it's all free parking and free event. On the inside of that activity guide is the reflection area to solidify learning. Some really cool stuff in there, including that A to Z that we were talking about earlier. This is the written portion that the individual can do. They can look here and see about the careers in aviation or STEAM. Let them reflect and write down some that they saw that, like, I really like that. Maybe they want to research it more. Maybe they want to check off the ones booths they want to go back to on Saturday or Sunday. And get a little higher level thinking here of what differences of planes, similarities, and gosh, if they went to the inventors, Doug Massey's table, maybe they're going to start to think, what could I invent? What could the future features be? And what can I create? And tapping into our wonderful artists, the other A in STEAM, art. We'd love it if they want to go ahead and draw a plane or technology that they saw. They can put that there. Pilots are going to meet several. If they remember their names later when they're doing reflection, they can write that info in, the name of the plane, pilot's name. But again, if they take this back the next day, they could actually take it over to pilots, get some info if that's something they're into. And that's the activity guide. Okay, so we're coming around towards the end, but how to manage 900 students. So we've talked a little bit about it, but we're gonna welcome everybody, and each class that comes to the welcome gate, we're going to then pair them with a guide. The guide is going to take that class through all the educational booths on their schedule, which is about 6 to 8 booths. They're going to follow that schedule, rotate through those booths. Each rotation is about 25 to 30 minutes. Some of our booths needed 30. And so please don't worry. What happened is we strategically designed, if it was a 30-minute booth, we put them right next to the next rotation. So no rotation time is needed. Otherwise, we have 5-minute rotation where they can walk from one booth to next. If you get there earlier, do engaging activities. Um, some of our booths requested 15-minute mini lessons. And so to accommodate that, we actually paired them with another booth. So that's how you can get the 6 to 8. So you might actually go to Voyager. Voyager has a 15-minute digital tour of the solar system happening in a really cool virtual trailer. While that's going on with the 15 students in there, 15 will be outside learning about meteorites from an awesome display that Kevin has where they actually get to touch a meteorite. That class will then switch. These 15 will go to inside Voyager. Voyager, the 15 there will come up to Meteorite. So it's just a way to manage and do that. Maricopa County Air is also doing that with the Republic Services. So they'll do both do 15-minute mini lessons, and that class of 30, if it's up to 30, will switch. We talked about the number of vendors, pilots. They won't see them all, just the 6 to 8 stations. So 5-minute rotations gives you time to walk, and please don't worry, there's going to be sometimes you feel like you're kind of running and catching up, especially the distance between the education area and the pilots. We built that in with a buffer that we gave you a full hour over the pilots and static display combined. So you're going to make back some time there if needed. You may see one less pilot than you were planning, but it buys you some time not to worry. And of course, just make sure that you time well that we get you back to the stage at 12:10. So rotating, again, these are all the stations. Red asterisks, they'll be there at SciTech. And now comes to a view of the map of a lot of what we've been talking about. So the buses will be arriving here. This will be the info booth with a red tent, thanks to Ms. Sarah. The blue tent will be where the guides will gather right next to it. But inside here is the learning area. So several of our booths will be in this learning area right over here. The other bulk of our learning booths will be over here with the RC Flyers, Copper State Safe Launch. It's the drug awareness aircraft that the kids will actually paint on, which is pretty cool. And a couple other, I think we got National Guard over here and AOPA. So we'll have some other booths in that area. As they rotate, we are rotating in a clockwise manner. So starting wherever you're at, you'll just keep rotating. So the next area that you would rotate over to is the pilot area. If you do have the Arizona Pilot Association on your rotation schedule, they're right here in the hangar. If you have ultralights, they're going to be over here, maybe a little bit closer there. We will have a tram running that day from Copper State. Not all kids will be able to get on the tram, but for those who do, it'll start at the info booth and stop in this area to get you there. But the pilot area is there. We'll talk about the pilots in just a moment. But you'll be able to chat with pilots with yellow prop cards here, as well as here on the static aircraft walking along the tarmac. There's going to be a lot of planes. We heard by the end of this weekend, there will be a little over 400 planes parked out there. So pretty amazing. If you're going to the medical helicopter or the Copper State chopper, that is going to be over here in the corner. That will be one of the rotation booths there as well. And of course, 12:10, everybody back to the stage, and that's located right here. When it comes time to lunch, one of the main areas we'll be using VIP tents. We have access to all 5. We'll be doing groups A, B, and C for sure in here. Group D will be over here in the food vendor area, and group E, there is a bleacher area over there. It is a lot of students, a lot of people eating. They are not going to fit all in one place. It might be too much in one area. If a class wants to go to a different area, they're welcome to. We just ask keeping food off the tarmac, but there may be some other locations, and they're welcome to modify just as needed, but these are our core areas if they would like to do that. This is our master rotation schedule. And again, we're just asking keep to the schedule. The biggest thing here, because we've gone over a lot of this, just flexibility is key. We'll modify and adjust as we go along, but this is the order that we have you in. And so if you are group A, classroom 1, you'll start with station 1 here and go straight through the rotation, starting with Voyager, then to Verado, Astronomy Club, Morse code, and so on. If you're group A, classroom 2, you start with the second rotation and move through, or sorry, not start with the second rotation. Yours actually starts with pilots. So we're going to take you through pilots, Voyager, and then it rotates through. So each class will have its own group, own classroom that rotates you through, so that everybody's at one place and not all crowded together. When you get to the pilots in yellow, look for yellow prop cards. Any pilot with a yellow prop card, you can go and talk to. They are prepared and ready, and they'll have their yellow prop cards filled out with some really cool information. We do recommend too, at this point, you have some extra time there, and you do have lots of the classes have extra chaperones and teachers. And so they can split up their groups. Just make sure they're with a chaperone or teacher, and you can tell them where to meet and when to meet back to pull everybody together. So that way, we anticipate they could see 3 to 5, easily 3 to 5 pilots during that time, if not more. Just some reminders, make sure that they come back to the airfare on Saturday and Sunday. That's back on this activity guide. Several of the field trip booths will be at the SciTech on Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's indicated by the asterisks. It is free to attend. There are some costs: food trucks, kids zone, hot air balloon rides, and then also there are RC Flyers. Just a reminder, they do have their open house on February 15th and 16th. Some points of interest: there will be airplanes taking off and landing throughout the morning. There are some outdoor exhibits through Copper State over in the pilot area. And so if nobody's there, you're welcome to kind of stop by if you have some extra time. You can look at some of the cool aviation material that they're selling and building nowadays. Even ask questions if people are available. There are several hangars. A lot of them are owned by small private companies that are able to park their planes there, as well as individuals. And then it's fun to point out Buckeye is the fastest growing city in the nation, so this airport does have great potential. And finally, there's a possibility that the C-119, it's a cargo troop carrier. There's a gentleman just north of the airport, has an amazing, wonderful collection of airplanes. And sometimes he's able to bring it out, sometimes he's not. If it does show, you may see it. It's a good idea to, feel free to stop and take a look and let the kids look on your way to another booth. Contingency plans. If there's not enough volunteers, we'll do a little bit, as we mentioned earlier, contingency plan where we'll rotate through the educational area and use some of our volunteers to escort classes down to the pilot area and let the teachers and students navigate through the pilots on their own so that we can make sure that we can take care of the rest over the educational booths. If a booth does not show, we'll let you know that first thing in the morning. We'll have a backup plan for that, let you know which booth or location you'll be going to in lieu of that booth if it's not there. Again, you'll be notified first thing when giving your packet. But we don't anticipate that happening, but just in case. If you do get done early with a booth, just a reminder, go ahead and go through the engaging questions and keep those kids thinking, or point out some other things that might be there. Again, it might be the large plane and some other planes that might show up. That will be really cool. Although we can't have you stopping at a booth that is on rotation schedule because it could throw off another class, feel free to observe and walk by though, like the National Guard. They're gonna have the Humvee and some other cool tech. It's okay to observe and look. RC Flyers, same thing. You can't be part of that mini classroom if it's not on your schedule, but you can definitely observe and look, and that's something you can do if you get done early. Weather, super happy to say, no contingency needed at this point, knock on wood. Right now it's showing a nice temperature of a little bit cool, 68 degrees, but sunny, and if I'm reading this right, like minimal wind, so life is good for weather. Before we leave, we do ask, don't forget to sign out, return your vests. If there's any unused papers, packets, please get those back to the info booth. If you're part of a booth, we ask that you pack it up and return any of the extra supplies to the info booth, and we do appreciate that. Of course, sign out and then head home with our greatest appreciation. Okay, wow, I think we covered it all. I know this was a lot of extra time on your part. We definitely put it down for your volunteer hours. Just know that we so appreciate you doing this and being part of this. If you do have any questions, feel free to call me, 623-349-6354, my office phone. Get me on my cell phone at 623-680-6528. You can email me at jvanleeuwen, V as in Victor, A-N as in Nancy, L-E-E-U-W-E-N as in Nancy, at buckeyeaz.gov. But if you got this orientation, you also have my email, so we'll go with that. But if you have any questions, absolutely feel free to ask. Otherwise, we will be seeing you bright and early Friday morning as we go beyond the classroom to inspire, engage, and connect some amazing youth who are going to have an amazing experience thanks to you. Thanks so much. We'll see you Friday morning.